Azmi Walid Happy birthday once. Amin. Happy birthday Walid. Mwah. Mwah.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Malur from Hearts&Minds Development Center. Welcome back to Being Whole, Being Me. And of course, today I am really, I won't say excited, really happy and grateful that, how do I describe this guy? Is he my friend? Is he my brother? Is he my relative? Is it my ex-colleague? Actually, I really don't know. I just know I love him to bits. And I love him even more because he inspires me with his passion for his children. So wherever you are, put your hands together or put your hands on your heart and please help me welcome Syahrul Azmi. Syahrul, come!
Hello,
Hi,
everybody.
How are you, Syahrul?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah.
You look like you're in a corner at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, not everybody has a nice office to go to and studio and colors and all that. Most of us are in our bedroom. So this is the only corner of the bedroom I'm willing to share with the public.
Yeah. So anyway, just for your credit, the reason we are the color we are has a lot to do with what you did when you were with Hearts&Minds. So this is where we are with what you had contributed. So welcome to Being Whole, Being Me, Syahrul. Thank you for saying yes. I know you're a very private person. And it means a lot to me that you said yes, of course, to me, Lakonon, right? Okay, so today we are going to talk about how to make tough choices easily, right? And people who don't know you won't know what actually this means. So, very quickly, if you can, but before that, I must welcome my friends who are here now. Oh, my good friend Alia is here. Gerald, my good friend, is also here. Good afternoon. And I believe more people will be joining us. But before that, right, let's get to know you a little bit because I know quite a bit about you, I think. But it's better you tell about yourself, just in case I let out your secrets, okay? So tell us a little bit about your background, your family background and stuff like that. Boleh?
Boleh. I guess I have to start from the very beginning, right? So I always talk about my parents because both my parents are teachers, right? And that usually explains a lot. And my mother taught for 37 years. She basically was teaching before she got married and throughout her life, right? So for those of you who have parents who are in teaching, you kind of know the kind of life you would have growing up, right? And that kind of shaped a lot of how I look at the world, right? I am married. I have 2 kids, as you've seen in the video, but only one wife, which you have not seen on the video because she's very private as well. Right? I can say that throughout my life, I've always been in situations where it's difficult to fit in, right? And I've always found myself in ways where I had to adjust myself to fit into the people that I'm with, right? Growing up in a small town like Ipoh, where we never really saw differences in terms of the people we hang out with, friends and things like that, right? But as I grew up, I found that I did not fit any box, right? So those are the kind of challenges in terms of growing up in that sense. So that kind of makes me look at the world in a different way. Having sometimes not being able to see things in the way that other people see, right? So, I mean, a good example, I remember when I was young, maybe 10 or something, was in the car with my mother, and we were driving along Ipoh, and we happened to accidentally go into a one-way street, right? There was a police officer who stopped us, right? Knocked on the door, rolled down the window. Old car must roll down. So looked at it and said, the officer looked at my mother, looked at me, right? Looked at my mother again, and then said, Aci, ini jalan satu one way aja, Aci. So mother the police officer did not look at us and think we were Malay, right? So so that's been basically, and growing up, that's always been the issue. Looking at me, like people can't actually point me in, right? So, which one is it? Punjabi ke, Indian ke, Malay ke? You know, as I did my work recently last time when I used to go to India, they thought I was local. When I was landing in an airport in Europe, they thought I was from the Middle East. So yeah, so not fitting in has been my thing,
Right.
but adjusting and fitting into other people's view has been how I've survived in that sense.
Can you repeat that for me? Because that's a lot.
So in summary, if I were to describe myself, I am someone who adjusts to fit into other people's perspective.
Right. And
Yeah.
how does that fit with you in terms of comfort? Because what you're saying is that you fit into what people are expecting of you. Is that what you're saying?
Not expectations, right?
Okay.
Not expectations, but I fit in to build rapport, right? So understanding where they're coming from, right? So they don't feel awkward, right? So that actually it's about diving into their perspective as well.
And so what you're saying is that when you realize that people have different perception about you, what you do is you go into their space to help you understand, to build rapport and understand where they are coming from. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. And why is that important for you?
Why is it important to me? I guess it's always important to feel you belong, right? And when you don't see similarities with yourself, you find which part of the similarity in the other people that you can connect and belong to.
Wow. Okay, so that connects very well with what we talk about indirectly in Being Whole, Being Me, because it's about a sense of belonging and how do we belong. So thank you for that. I must say that came a little bit as a surprise because I have always experienced you being just you, So that's a big thing for me. So I'm going to welcome your very, very good friend. Shamini Sudan is here. Erasmus is here. Paskirtana is here. And I'm going to just welcome Tanga Murugesan. Thank you very much for joining us. So we are talking to Syahrul, and he is just talking about how he fits into build rapport and to understand, where people are coming from. And he has just shared with us why it's important for him, because he wants to belong. So tell us, how did this having to fit in perhaps has shaped you to be the person you are today as an adult?
Okay, that's a very tough question. I guess I'll take that in two parts, Mala, right? So as an adult, on my own, and as an adult with a family. Right? So I think as an adult on my own, it was always about being able to get my ideas or opinions across in a way that would probably fit other people's agenda, right? As an adult with a family, other people's agenda doesn't matter anymore.
Ah,
It's more about the family's agenda. So it make decisions easier, right? Because there's a bit more purpose and focus in terms of what you do, what you don't do, where you put your focus on, and where it's okay to let go.
so what you're saying is that in your adult state, so you differentiate yourself as when you are representing yourself and when you're representing, as a family member, right? That when it comes to your family, that's your wife and your children. And what you're saying is that you fit in a lot more when it comes to other settings. That means you don't mind, doing stuff to have a sense of belonging. And you're saying the way you make choices when it comes to your family is more purpose centric. Is that what you're saying? More conscious.
Yeah.
Wow. And why the differentiation? And why is it that you are choosing so consciously to do this with the family? It seems, would it be fair for me to say that you are more authentic in the family setting?
Um,
And I'm not implying that you're less authentic in other setting, right? So as to like,
yeah.
that means you give what is really, you live your values and your purpose in when it comes to family setting, and you're okay to give up on all of these things in a professional setting or in other setting. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. So I think when I split into two, I meant before having a family and after having a family.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the family has shifted you a lot.
Yeah. For sure. Right. Getting married was a big significant change. Right.
Okay.
Having my first son was a significant change. Right. The second one was a significant change. Right. I remember when I got married, and and in a Muslim wedding, you actually say out your to put it very simply, it's a promise to God, right? That you're going to do this, you take care of your other half, you do this and fulfill all these things, right? I remember after reading all that out, this huge weight on the shoulder just went. I wasn't like, yes, it's like, oh, gotta do this now, right? So it was more of that feeling. So that's something that was really that I carry, and it's been, I take it very seriously in that sense, right? And then when Mikhail came, right? Mikhail's 12 now. It was very quick in the sense that we had Mikhail a month before we celebrated our first anniversary.
You were quick.
Right. Yeah. It was, so it's adjusting to being a husband, being responsible to your in-laws and all that, right? And then becoming a father, right? So those transitions were quite different. Yeah.
Okay. And tell me, like, if you think about significant changes that happen for you, because what I'm hearing is that, we know you take every word of yours seriously. And I'm very sure people who are watching will also know how seriously you're thinking and looking for the right words and being accurate, right? But tell me, when you talk about changes, so you spoke about, marriage and, taking your vows seriously, which is like really good. I've not really heard people expressing it that way. And then Mikhail, and of course then Abbas, right? The pretty fellow. Now, and you're saying that, with every big major change, which is the marriage, first child, second child, you had changes. So what are some big changes that you were very conscious about? So in the marriage is taking the vow seriously. So tell us the changes that you were experiencing with Mikhail.
Right. So a bit of background. Mikhail is 12, going on 13. He's 12 and a half, going on 13. He is 164 centimeters tall. So it's big boy. At the age of 2.5, he was diagnosed on the autism spectrum, right? So prior to that, we already saw some delays in terms of his speech, in terms of his interaction and expressiveness and things like that, right? And at that point, autism in Malaysia was not really public, and not many people talked about it. There were not a lot of resources around it and things like that. So we had to Google and did all those things for ourselves, right? And really understanding what autism is wasn't something we were able to do immediately, right? But we did know immediately that we needed to do something differently. Right? So just as we decided to go and get Mikhail diagnosed, we were already prepared in terms of what it could be, what are the possibilities of it. And once he was diagnosed, we came home. Bunga and myself, we talked about it. We didn't talk very long before we decided to make certain changes in terms of how we're going to help Mikhail. Right? So one of the earlier decisions, and it wasn't a decision which we discussed at length, right? It was almost split in that sense that Bunga just said that, I'll put my career aside, I'll stay home, work on Mikhail, and you go and build this career, because this is going to be an expensive journey together, right? And that's it. So we didn't delve on why did this happen to us, where did it come from, because there's no answers to these questions, and the answer doesn't really matter anyway, right? Where it came from and what causes it. It's about how do we move forward with this, right? And keep in mind, at that point, we didn't know what we were dealing with, right? It wasn't like the other disabilities that there's a lot of movies on, right? You can see it. So when you talk about dyslexia, you know what it is. You've seen it before. You've seen it acted out, right? You kind of know what kind of journey that will be, right? Down syndrome, right? You see a lot of that too. But autism, and it being a spectrum condition, every autistic kid is different, right? In terms of what they can do, right? So we didn't know, right? So I was fortunate to have a good circle of friends / family, right? Who was on board with what we wanted to do. So we just put feelers out to just ask people, who can help us with this, and we started to talk to people. And I don't remember a time, and Bunga will be able to correct me on this. I don't remember a time where we felt we needed to hide it, right? I think from the very beginning we needed to speak to as many people as we can to get the help that we need, and we didn't know what help we needed, right? At that point. So that was something major, and because of that, I've had to make certain decisions in terms of my career, in terms of what I do, where my time goes. Yeah.
Wow. So, wow. Okay. So for those who probably are, if you're wondering who's Bunga, Bunga is the lovely wife, Syahrul, the behind the scene, the one that you see on the poster. So you come back and Bunga just says, we have to live our life differently. So I'm not going to focus on my career. You focus on your career because it's going to get expensive, and you need to do this while I, do the support from home, right? And how did you feel at that moment? But going back a little bit, right? So let's say you didn't have the diagnosis of Mikhail, right? Was Bunga a person who was interested in her career?
Yeah. She enjoyed what she did. And I can see what she's missing today. Right? I mean, work is not just about what you do, but it's also who you're with, right? So those are things that she had to give up, right? Those close relationships and connections that you build in the context of work and things like that, right? Which had to be a little bit more distant because she's not at work. Right? So yeah, those are, in my mind, those are tough decisions.
Right. And how did that? Yeah. How did that feel for you? When Bunga actually told you, I'm going to stay home, so you go and do what you need to do, and
I better hold up to my side of the bargain, lah, right? Make sure I go do a good job, do what I need to do to be able to support, right? But at the same time, we agreed from the very beginning that with regards to our Mikal at that point, it would be we were depending on each other. So she would be at home for sure, right? She's probably be more involved, right? But we'll make decisions together about Mikal. So every time we come back from a doctor's session, right, we'd sit down and discuss. So, okay, what do we do together? What are our options and things like that? And we decide and we move towards together, right? And I had to make certain decisions with my work as well in terms of making sure I'm at a job where I could step out and attend a speech therapy session, attend an occupational therapy session, attend a doctor session, which is usually during the day, right? I had to make those kind of conscious decisions. And it's a balance, right? Doing what you want to do, being able to bring home what you need, at the same time having the space to still be part of that process with Mikal and supporting Bunga in that process as well.
How did you cope with all of this?
Not so good. I have to say I have really good friends. Right? I have really good friends. I have really good bosses who are friends, right? Who help me narrow my options. Right? I am someone who comes up with a lot of options. Some people on the call today will just see, right? It's that I overthink things a little bit, right? So when I go to my friends, right, and I go to different friends for different things, right, they will tell me, this one, forget about it, I'll handle it, right? So one of the things I'm really grateful with, I don't know if people on the call here know this guy called Terry Neto. Very funny guy, gray hair. He used to not have this bushy but thing back before he turned 60, right? So he was a guy that actually helped me in that process, right? He doesn't know this. I've never said this to him, right? But one of the things that Terry and People Potential at that point did for me was so at that point both Bunga and I were working for People Potential, right? And because of Mikal's condition, I had gone to the management team and said, no, I think I need to look for another job, right? Because I need to earn a little bit more and so on and so forth, right? And Bunga's going to stay at home while I do this, right? But they actually said, you know what? Since Bunga's going to stay at home, so she's not going to be working, right? And all this time we have already invested in the two of you, right? So what they did was to give me the bump in my salary, which was actually taking Bunga's salary and putting it into mine, right? And giving me more responsibilities to do that. Right? So it made it easy because I can't imagine having to apply to another place, explaining to my would-be employee here, this is my conditions, I can do this work, but I have these problems that I need to do that. So that was really I was really fortunate to be in that circle that was able to support me to do that, right? So that then I guess made me work harder because I now owe this man. I still owe him till today, right? To have that in terms of financial security, still be able to do what I like, and but still have that space to work with Mikhail. Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't have designed that solution on my own, right? But having that group, and I think I'm pretty fortunate to be part of that circle, right? I don't think I would have been able to design that solution if I didn't have that circle of friends to do that, and that's worked throughout, you know. And through that is when that circle kind of like got bigger, and I got other friends who have helped us with Mikhail. I think you've had Nasrin on the show before, right? And Jaya, who really helped us figure out a program, right, to help Mikhail grow and help him with his condition, right? So yeah, and that's through just circles and circles and just talking to a lot of people and telling people what my challenges were, and just getting people to help. You know, one of the things that I really am really grateful for, or I wouldn't call it a surprise, but but I was very fortunate in the sense that to discover there's a lot of good people in the world, right? And they come to you at the right time. But you've got to put yourself out there in the world for people to know how to help you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to take a pause because you mentioned my favorite, one of my favorite names, that's Terry Neto. So I don't think Terry Neto is listening to this, but I'll make sure he listens to this. Terry, we are all talking about you. That means you're loved, even though you don't want us to shout it out publicly. And I think, I've said this to Terry, and you're saying that, and I'm sure many people will echo that, anyone who knows Terry will know that he somehow or other, influences the way you think. So Syahrul, you've given us really like a couple of real nuggets, right, in making tough choices. You said, when you found out, so what you're saying is that you had a great support system. And I believe the great support system was there because you had you've built your foundation in relationship, which you told us earlier. Because you're always putting yourself out there, building rapport, building relationship, right? And I believe, and I'm not sure whether it's okay for me to say this, I think you are very conscious about who you build relationship with, because you didn't make friends with me immediately when you saw me, right? It took you a while to say, okay, I'll make friends with my life. So I suppose you do it consciously, and I'm so glad you did. So you're building rapport, you're putting yourself out there, and when you're faced with a challenge that you may or may not know enough, right? Because we don't know how much is enough. And the nugget that you're giving is that, put yourself out there, talk about it, right? Talk about it and ask for help. Either in terms of, it could be direct help in terms of, how it can help in the situation that you're facing, or the support can come in other ways that can support your choices and your decisions. That's what you're saying. And you're also saying, you're also saying that, you're so glad there are good people. And I personally can say that, knowing you, I actually cannot remember how many years I know you, because I feel that I know you all my life, right? Knowing you, that's what you do for me, right? All the time. So I think, it's what you give, and we continue to pray that you get many folds back. Now, and I like the way you actually make decision with an employer. So I want to just divert a little bit, for you to just think while I read some comments out. Is if you think about how Tech People Potential and the team of people who were in People Potential, as well as your extended friends, helped you, right? Maybe you on a hindsight now, when you think about it, how do you think people can go to their employers or their direct managers, right, to talk about their issues and try and work out a collaborative solution to help it work, especially now with the pandemic, with so much uncertainty. There's a lot of anxiety, right? As you think about it, I'm going to give you just like 1 minute, 30 seconds to think about it while I say hello to some people who are here. So Anita Lawrence is here. Hi, Anita. Kamini, yeah, if you remember Kamini, she says, oh, my favorite people to go to. Kamini, I love you. Kamini is an amazing mom. Anita Lawrence is here. So yeah, thank you, Anita. So these are all the gang, True Peak Potential. Good morning, John Peter Ganesan. I'm glad you made it. Thanks for coming. Shamini has to hit it right. He doesn't have hair anymore. Yes, she's talking about Terry because that's how much we love him to a point that we pay attention even to his hair. Gerald says, that's wonderful, Syahrul, when both husband and wife communicate and work as a team to complement each other. For the family, magic happens. And you've experienced it. Of course, support from loved ones is a bonus. Thank you, Gerald, for that. Alia says, the good people come to you at the right time and you need to put yourself out there. Superb. Thank you, Alia. But, I didn't put myself out there and you still appeared in my life, Alia. Shamini says, same effect. And I assume she's referring to Terry for sure. So, Terry, you're getting a lot of attention that you don't like. Hi, Louis. Louis Marias is a friend of mine saying hello. All right. So, Syahrul, tell us, what advice or, what would you tell people who are, struggling with sometimes issues in their personal life? And, a lot of people tend to say, we need to separate personal and professional. And here you are saying, you had a boss who said, let's work this out together. It's just not you, right? And in return, you gave a lot more. So tell us what we can do if people are facing situations like this.
Okay, so let's look at it from the employer's part of it, because I think that's a little bit easier to talk about, right? I think it's very easy to just push aside conversations like this because it's tough and it's not something that you want to talk about in business, right? So, okay, so your son is sick. Simple thing, right? So your son is sick. Okay, so you got to take the day off. Okay, take the day off, right? But make sure you come back tomorrow, right? But if whatever that sickness prolongs, then the conversation gets escalated and you get issues and things like that. That's a typical one, right? And sometimes we don't ask, oh, your son is sick. What happened? What is the issue? What is the challenge, right? How do you feel about it, right? How you handle it, given that there's a lot of stuff on your plate as well, right? How do we make it work, right? If you need to take extended, so we often don't go to that conversations as employees, and I think the reason we do that is we feel it's not our business to know, right? But if we're having that mindset, that's probably because you don't have a relationship with this person.
Right.
So you don't know about the background stories and things like that, right? That's from the employer's point of view. So how do we change that? I think you need to have those conversations, right? And look at it just beyond in terms of what this person is doing at work. And I think with the pandemic, that comes out now for a lot of organizations because you can't not avoid talking about the family today. Right? Because it's in your face, it's in your videos and things like that, you see it, right? So it's a matter of responding to that in a positive way and helping people support that. Right? So a lot of organizations are already making those steps, right, in terms of their policies and things like that. From the employee point of view, you've got to be. It takes a lot of courage to talk about it, right? But also you got to be. You got to put your situation and think it through in a way that you can explain it that makes sense for the employer. I don't know how to put it in a different way, but
right.
When I explained it to folks in Peak Potential, it was more of like, I really wanted to do this. This is a job I really like, right? And I think I'm good at it, right? But because of these challenges, I won't be able to do this job, right? And here's my solution to it, right? But I was pretty clear in terms of what my challenges are. My challenges were not, I need to take leave every Friday, right? My challenges were not, I need an extra 1,500, Right? That wasn't my challenge. Right?
Right.
My challenge is that I need to create more space and time to be with my family, to do this work. Right? My challenge is that if I create that space and time there, I won't have time for this, and that's going to impact my team, so on and so forth. Right? So that conversation is more moving away in terms of what's important for me, rather than it's what's important for us.
Right.
To work through this. Us is that whole equation, right? So that would be my intellectual advice approach to that, right? But you've got to be true to why are you actually having this conversation. The reason I had that conversation is because I needed a solution for Mikal. Right? That was the purpose of the conversation, right? And that's why we make those decisions around that. Right?
Okay.
I don't know if all that makes sense, but yeah.
No, it makes a lot of sense, because what you're saying is that, you already had established a relationship with the people you were working, right? There was already a relationship beyond work. That was obvious, right? Which is something a lot of us don't do, because we want to draw our lines very clearly, right? Because then that's where the difficulty and the clear boundaries between personal and professional, which we have been propagating in the past, we've been advocating in the past. That's what is getting into the space right now, because the employers don't know how to talk to you about it, and neither do they have the skills to talk about it. Because when I begin to empathize with my direct report, right, I need to now make choices differently, right? Because you evoke empathy, you evoke compassion when you listen to somebody, right? So if I know your story, it naturally brings up my human side, which is empathy and compassion. And that means that I can't make choices that is directly, that may or may not impact the results. I think, in fact, it will impact the results. And the fear is always there, because then, oh my goodness, how do I make this choice? How do I make this right choice for you? Because as a human, right, first. Because we do say employees are the greatest asset, but whether we treat them actually comes through during difficult times, right?
Yeah.
and I think it's so it's that part that, there's a relationship. Let's talk about it. But I think your golden nugget is, so that's one part. So for those who don't have a relationship, go and build that relationship first if you want people to care for you, right? Don't care when there's no relationship. There's no reason for one to do that for you. People don't owe you that, right? Number one. Number two is that I think what you've put out is very clear, that you need to be very clear. Okay, what do I really want out of this situation, right? What do I want? Do I know what my clear choices are? And to go in and talk about it honestly, because that takes a lot of courage, because you're in a very vulnerable situation. You're almost asking for a favor, something that is not professional. So if you don't have a strong enough relationship, and I would say integrity in terms of your work ethics, right, then it's more difficult for me to want to support you. Yeah, and I think that's what you actually said. So, and you also said, it's not just about, I've not just thought about what I need, but I'm telling you, the changes that need to happen in my life is going to affect us as a team, as an organization, which means that it's going to affect your results, right? And you're putting that up, and there's not just a lot of vulnerability, but that there's, what I see is that there's a lot of thinking that goes into a win-win. There's a lot of value in it, right? And, I think it's difficult as a human to reject the intention in what you're saying, right? And I think that's amazing, because
I mean, I know, Mel, you're saying that I put myself in a position of vulnerability and all that, right? But I didn't think I had all that consciously thought about. No, I'm putting myself out in that way, because all those decisions, all that thinking behind that, to make those, to be courageous and brave about it, was basically I need to help make up,
Right.
right? And because of that reference or that focus, being courageous, making all that, having those tough conversations, it was easier because I know why I'm doing this, right? Yeah.
Right, right. So what you're saying is that, yeah, you're saying that you were not choosing that path, but it just happened because you're listening deep within in your heart and asking yourself, what is it that you really need to do for Mikhail? And just make it happen. There's no thinking in it. There's just doing in it, and that
Mm.
doing, act of doing, is the courage, right?
Mm.
Because there is no, you didn't give yourself any space for vulnerability or discomfort. Not that it wasn't there, but you were not paying attention to it because you
No.
you are trying to solve the problem,
Yeah.
right? But within that, there's a lot of courage, right? And that courage, the reason you say there is courage is because you only need courage because there is vulnerability, right? If I feel vulnerable, I don't need to be courageous, right? So you may not say I felt that way, you may not be aware. And this is what I realize about you, and I'm always inspired because when it comes to the choices and decisions you make for your children, for your family, right? Your self-orientation is so low. You're not thinking about yourself, right?
Mhm.
And at this point, Shamini is saying relationship is very important and organization values too. Syahrul was a very important member of the team. Okay, so she says very important, not important. At this point, you can smile, Syahrul. He was a key contributor to the practitioner team, so it made the decision easier to make. By now, Shamini and Syahrul has some history happening here, right? Okay, so thank you, Sham, for reiterating that and helping Syahrul take some compliments. All right, even though it's like one of the most difficult things for Syahrul to do. So tell me,
Thanks, Shah.
when you made all of these difficult choices, right? How has it? One is, how has it affected your lifestyle? Because we all know, just two incomes are even two incomes is not enough to live in a city.
Mm.
Okay, you're living with one income, and
Yep.
you have extra expenses because unfortunately we don't have a support system in the country to support the likes and talents of Mikhail, right? So and that's a reality, which means that you need to fork out more money. So income reduced in some way because it's how much more can one person earn, right? One.
Mm.
And on the other hand, I know you invest a lot in Mikhail's education. So tell me, first, how did it affect your lifestyle first as a family?
Um, I guess here's the thing, right? So, coming from my parents' house in Ipoh to university to starting work to getting married, having children,
Mm.
our values in terms of lifestyle didn't really change, right? Coming from Ipoh, parents are teachers and all that. We were not like poor, right? We had enough, right? We had our weekly KFC dinners, which is a big thing. It was fine dining at that point. I don't know whether you know it. The people from Ipoh will remember there's only two KFCs in Ipoh. One in Jalan Kampar, and another one is in town, right? And those days you go in, and then it's proper plates, proper cutleries, right? And the chicken goes on a plate, not a paper cardboard thing today. Right? So it was a big deal. So coming from that kind of background, going to university on a PTPTN loan, right? In a local university, starting work. I didn't end up in one of those big firms earning 2,500 straight away, kind of thing, right? And when we got married, also, to be honest, lifestyle changes was not significant because we never lived large anyway, right? Um, on that point, and I think it's part of my upbringing as well, which fortunately I found a partner who had a similar values when it comes to that, right? I think there's a lot of challenges with marriages where you have different values when it comes to materials, things and things like that, right? So to be honest, I mean, today I'm still renting.
Mm. Mm.
Right?
Mm.
Yeah, because I kind of feel that I needed that funds to do something else, right? So that funds is prioritized for Mika's development, the kids' development, and other things and things like that. Right? I bought my first car
Mm.
5 years ago, 4 years ago, right? And that also after being coerced and forced by a good friend who showed me it was possible because I didn't think it was possible, right? So somebody who shall not be named helped me make that decision, right? Where else before that I was still driving my mother's old Proton Iswara, which she passed to me, which I still drive today. That was my car, right? And the family car was for Bunga to drive Mikhail to school and things like that. And it was more of that focus. Right? The decision to get another car or buy a car was for the kids,
Right.
for Bunga to be independent, because she was at that point, and this is pre-Grab days, right? You know, hailing taxis, going for appointments with Mikhail on one hand, dragging him across, right, as they go, and when we had our second son Abbas, it became a bit tougher because then she was traveling with two kids,
Right.
in a taxi. So we did all the maths and things like that. We said, no, this taxi costs finally made sense for us to just get a car, right? So all that. So to go back to your original question about lifestyle changes, it didn't change in that sense. But I didn't feel I had to give up anything because I
Right.
didn't have anything to give up in the first place, right? But we didn't give up going for holidays,
Right.
right? We did have to give up, you know, not getting buying a house or buying a car and things like that. That was all like lower priority because the focus for Bunga and I was how do we make sure that Mikhail becomes independent, right? When we're no longer around,
Right.
right? It's already difficult to raise a quote unquote normal child in today's world,
Yeah.
right? But for somebody who, like Mikhail, who has the challenges, who looks at the world in a different way, where I don't know if the world really understands what he needs or what and all that, right? How do I make sure that he's going to be okay, right? So that's our long-term project per se, right? So we're always trying to figure out, talking to different people, looking at different interventions. What are the things that he can do to make sure that he is independent? Because eventually you need to be independent, right? Even independent here is not saying you are alone, right? Independent here is that you know how to survive, right? You know how to build those relationships. You know how to earn something, right, for yourself and things like that. So that's been our focus. That's been my focus, and the decisions we made have been towards that. Right? So he's 12. He's 12 now, right? So we need to reach a certain milestone in 10 years' time to have an indication where he's going, what he's going to be able to do, right? But we can't wait till that. So we're doing things now to figure things out. Yeah.
Nice.
I can always go to holiday next time, right? I mean,
I love you. Okay, so now let me ask you this, right? So you said, okay, you didn't make major lifestyle changes, but you still live in a rented house, drive a very old car, and it's nice that you've got a car for your wife. But how do you deal? Do you first and foremost do you hear noise around you? Because this is not the typical measure of success in the city or in life generally, right? So have you been in situations where people tell you, you should be be more practical in life. You know, you should be doing this, and I don't think y'all are doing the right thing. Have you heard the noise around? And when there is, if there was noise, how do you deal with it?
I'm not sure if there has been noise. If there has been noise, I probably ignored it. But my circle of friends hasn't, and I don't really compare myself in that way either. So even if there was noise, it didn't really matter, right? But what I do constantly still get even today, at the end of almost every call that I have with my mother, she'll always say, "You okay or not? Got money or not?"
Oh.
Right? Yeah. So my family's worried and concerned. Right?
Yeah.
I'm fortunate to have a family that's also willing to help us financially and contribute. To make sure that we do have enough. Right? Like enough is depends on you, right? What enough is, right? So we didn't do this alone. I didn't do this alone, right? So family help, friends help, wherever they can, right? Giving time, financially, connecting us with the right people. I have friends who just send me articles, right? Hey, I saw this and this, and it's about how maybe Mika can do this in the future, right? So as I read this, so I know that these people have me in mind, right? Have how our Mika in mind, and that's really important because then Bunga and I don't feel alone going through this, right? We know we've got people with us that wants to see this boy be successful. Yeah.
And how does the little Abbas fit into this picture?
So that was back to your earlier question. What was the other significant change, right? So, so having Abbas was so backtrack. Mikhail was a surprise, right? Abbas was planned in the sense that we needed to be ready to handle. When I say we here, more than 50% is Bunga lah, right? Because she spends most of the time with the kids, right?
Yeah.
But we needed to be ready to be able to take care of another human being when Mikhail itself was a lot to focus on, right? So we were concerned whether, number one, are we ready? Number two, is Mikhail ready? Right? So we waited to see how independent Mikhail could be.
Right.
And we made that decision when he was 5 and decided, okay, I think he's ready. I think we're ready. And we felt having another child would actually help Mikhail. Right? And that's proven today, right? And all this is God's design, right? We bring someone to know. So we talk about right people at the right time. So he came in the right people. He was the right person at the right time, right? And Mikhail just took to his brother. Abbas responded really well, and a lot of changes in the last 6 years had a lot to do with Abbas in the picture, right? He had somebody to take care of. He had somebody to talk to. And Abbas being the chatty, busybody himself, I always tell people he's 6, but he thinks he's 10. Okay? He's asking things like he looks at Mikhail's drawing and say, how come I can't draw like that? I said, well, because you're 6. Right? So I mean, yeah, his brother is his best friend. He's only got his brother. To be honest, no thanks to the pandemic, he hasn't been to school yet.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
so that's his world, right? When Bunga and I went to get our vaccine last month, right? So stupid of me, I went and booked on the same day, the same time. So we had to park the kids somewhere. So we had to send the kids to my sister's place, right? But because of the MCO and things like that, I could only send them one at a time because the MCO says only 2 people in the car, right? When I told the policeman, he said, but I need to send two, so how? So is that if I send one at a time, is it okay? He said, only two people in the car at a time. Okay lah, so that's what so I sent one, the brother first, and then I sent Abbas first, and then I sent Mikal, and then when I picked up, also I had to do that, right? And there was, of course, a point where he was alone with my sister, without the brother. And my sister was saying, he was so sad. Right? He was so sad, he was quiet, he wasn't his usual self, you know. So yeah, so they're hardly apart. Right?
Yeah.
They're hardly apart. So yeah, so it was, he played a good part in terms of bringing out that emotions and expression out of Mikal, right? And when they play, he helps Mikal's speak, have conversations, right? Telling the brother what to say. Okay, you say this, I say this. You say this, I say this. So it's a short speech therapy on his own with his brother, right? But of course, the brother's 12 already, going on 13. He does have. He's 12 lah. He's a 12. Which 12-year-old boy wants to play with a 6-year-old boy? Right? So he has his patience and so does. So he's like, so Mikal, Abbas takes naps in the afternoon at 2:30. So around about 2:25, he will mention to the mother or me, isn't it about time Abbas takes a nap? Because that 2 hours, because that 2 hours, that means he doesn't have to deal with Abbas, right? So you have to understand.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So you have to understand, Mikal's condition means that having conversations, right, is very exhausting. Right. So this whole learning online and all that, it's very exhausting because people are just talking and talking and talking, and all these is very exhausting for him. You can see visibly in his face at the end of a class and things like that. So he needs his break, right? Out of that. So yeah, so it's been really positive. So yeah.
I just want to shout out these two gifts from Mikhail for me, and there's another poster he's drawn of me too. So I just wanted to, just in case people thought I drew it or my kids drew it. Oh, this is a gift from Mikhail. So thank you. Thank Mikhail again. Tell him, it's up here. Now, last question before we go onto a quick rapid fire, right? What's your feeling about Mikhail's progress now as you see him as a 12-year-old? For all the efforts that both of you, all of you have put in as a family, right? Tell us about Mikhail's progress.
He's come a long way. You see, Bunga and I, we look at things in short term, every 6 months, right? It's so contradictory, right? So like, wait, you got to plan. I'm planning for what he's going to do when he's 22, but in terms of how we look at progress, we look at every 6 months.
Right.
And that's because his progress can regress because of what's happening around him.
Right.
Simple example: a full year of school year, and in December it's the holidays. He has no school, things like that. His progress regresses. Then we start the year again. We build it up again. But as we build up again, it goes up to the next notch of performance, of his ability. Then end of the year it regresses again. Then we go to the next level, right? Things like that. So that's how we look at it, right? So he has. I'll take academic aside, right? Because academic for Bunga and I is not top priority, right? And that's also a conscious decision, right? We don't put great stress on academic, right? More important is the social skills, the life skills at this point, for him to build on that, right? So what I'm really proud of with Mika in the last maybe 12 months or 18 months, number one, he's shown a lot of resilience, right? In going through these changes that everybody's going through, right? Never once has he asked, can we go out? I want to go here, I want to go there, I'm bored at home. I've never heard that word. So he's very resilient in that sense, right? Going through this. Number two, more and more he's been able to express himself. Right?
Nice.
I am tired of school because of this, right? So when I asked him, so how does it make you feel? I feel frustrated. I feel this.
Wow.
I feel that, right? And that took a long time, but I see that as a win because, well, to be honest, a lot of adults can't even say that, right?
Right.
But
I was going to say that.
yeah, so the fact that we can have that conversation, I think it's a big win, and it can only get better once he's been able to do that. Right? So yeah, so that's his progress today. We're still exploring in terms of what he can be good at and what his future might be. We have time. Um, we have a lot of people we want to talk to. We would have done a lot of talking this year if not for the COVID thing. Right?
Right.
We started him on a art classes because he showed
Right.
interest in drawing and coloring and things like that. We started him on a basic art class. We just send your kids and just do arts and craft and things like that. And then about 4 or 5 months before the pandemic started last March, we enrolled him in a proper art class with a proper art teacher who went through the different mediums, watercolor and all that, and he really enjoyed it. Right?
Right.
And he really liked it. He showed certain talent in that as well. Right? And since the lockdown, we were able to send him there. And beginning of this year, we exposed him to art, digital art, right? So he's drawing on his computer now with a stylus to do that. So it's constant experimentation with a child like Mikhail. And I think it's not just Mikhail, but even for all children, we should just experiment and just give them different things to do, right? But purposefully, of course, right?
Nice.
Yeah, so again, it's going to be more of these experiments to figure out. But I'm most happy about him being able to express himself because
I remember some years ago, in one of the programs, you did say, and I remember the moment when you said, your greatest desire would be to go back and listen to Mikhail.
that's true. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, at that point, because at that point, my great desire was for me to come back home and he be able to tell me how his day was.
I remember that moment, and so when you tell me now, it's like, oh my goodness. So that's a major milestone. So thank you very much, Syahrul. It's lovely. You've given us so many nuggets that I think I personally knew this about you, but I want to thank you for coming up into coming onto this platform and agreeing to share this, because as parents, as professionals, I think we do have our struggles, and to have someone share how he thinks about it, and how you have worked it out as a team, as a family, is really very useful. I'm going to just take another 5 minutes to do what I call a quick rapid fire, if that's possible. So you don't just talk, okay? Don't think, you jangan pergi macam tu, yeah? All right. So are you ready?
That's going to be difficult for me, right?
I know, that's why I need to tell you this. So tell me, what's your biggest fear as a father, Jamika?
Not fulfilling my purpose as a father, or
Which is?
I mean, to be there for him, right? To be there for him in every way. Yeah.
Right. And if you thought of it from Mikhail's point of view, what does being whole, being me for Mikhail, you think means?
I think being able to express himself and being able to be accepted for who he is.
Okay. If I could only have one wish for my children as a father, what would it be?
That they go on to live their life purposefully.
Thank you. If you had a magic wand, what is the one thing you would do to change this world?
Take politics out of the equation.
Nice, thank you. Last one. If you if you had the power in this country to change one thing in education for children generally, but specifically to be inclusive of people like Mikhail, what would you do?
So my okay, it's gonna be a bit long with the answer because I need a reason for my answer, right?
Right.
We need more money in education, right? We need to take all the money that we throw into tourism campaigns and people's uniforms, you know what I'm talking about, and all that, right, into education. Because honestly, the conversations we've had with because we didn't where we are today, when the decision to go into and develop so-called our own program with Mikhail was not something that we decided to do from the very beginning, because we did look at what was available, right? We looked at, I went to the Jabatan and all that, Mikhail is a registered OKU with special needs learning, right? And all this, right? So I did go through all that process, right? And there are good people inside there who wants to help and things like that, but they're all understaffed. They're all bogged down with the processes and the inefficiencies, right? I remember going to the Jabatan Pendidikan Selangor to register Mikhail for school, right? And the guy was telling me how to use the portal on his computer, right? This is a desktop computer in the pegawai's room. I was clicking on it. It took so long for the thing to appear.
Right.
Can you imagine working and this is not 1990s. This is 2000 and what is this? 2011? 2013, 14, right? So it's not a long time ago. So we need to pump more resources into our education system.
Sure.
To be able to provide for the different type of kids that we have in Malaysia.
Nice. Thank you. So let's hope it's resonating. And so for parents, we need to invest more in our children in the right way by making purposeful choices. And for governance purposes, to build a nation, we need to invest appropriately in education, right? And with that, Syahrul, thank you very much. Is there anything else you want to tell us before we say goodbye?
I just want to, my mother doesn't listen to this, right? But she played a big role in terms of who I am today. When we talked about this topic about making tough decisions easy, right? And I reflect on the decisions that she made raising us, right? It kind of validated the decisions I made today, because she made similar decisions for herself, right? One of the stories I still tell about my mother, because my mother's a teacher, right? So she sees students go through, right? And I remember one of the stories that she told me when one of her ex-students came back to school. The first thing they commented to her was, "Cikgu, you're still wearing the same baju, Cikgu, from last time 5 years ago."
Wow.
So it tells you the kind of life that my mom did, right? I wouldn't call it sacrifices, but she made those decisions so that we could live better, right? She sent her kids to music school, right? Because she, as a child, wasn't able to have that, right? And she worked extra hours, tuition and all that, to be able to give that to her children.
Right.
And that is the model that I live with, and the decisions in terms that I make for my kids.
Nice. And we know that we need to one day interview your mom too, because I've heard a lot of personal stories from you on what an amazing teacher she is, and how her students from how many years ago still meet her yearly, and some of them are in very high position and still calling her Cikgu. So, but that would be a story for another day before we convince your mother to come here and speak to us.
Yeah. The other mother I have to mention here is, of course, Bunga. She doesn't say much. She goes through a whole lot. She's the first person to wake up and the last person to go to sleep. Right? and even whatever that goes through with the kids, she's taken a lot and she's given up a lot, right? So we wouldn't be able to do what we do today with Mikhail if not for what she's done and the decisions she's made for us. And some of the
Right.
decisions she's made, we don't even know, right? We are just getting the results of it. And things like that.
Nice. Thank you, Syahrul. Hugs to Bunga and of course your mom too. And definitely kisses to Abbas and Mikhail. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for sharing.
All right. Thank you.
So with that, thank you very much. With that, we're going to say bye to Syahrul. Thank you very much, Syahrul. And for those who have been with us throughout the whole session, thank you very much. Next week, we have an interesting story in Being Whole, Being Me, where we would be talking to a beautiful woman, a friend of mine, Bernie, and she is going to talk about her journey becoming an HR person, but not only that, how she hacked it years ago being the sole breadwinner. With that, thank you very much. See you next week. Signing off, this is Malal from Hearts and Minds Development Center. Bye.
to do for you. Ya Allah, please make one healthy, wealthy one. Amin. Happy birthday, Wale.